We're about to do something different.
You're listening to the Remix Movement Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Remix Movement Podcast. My name is Stephanie. I appreciate you so much for tuning in on this day to listen to episode 144. Now, this week has been a little crazy and chaotic in the sense where I still feel very overjoyed. I still feel like God is in construction of doing something. I'm excited. I finished my fasting and I really do feel like I am not the same woman who started the first day of my fasting, which was September 27. But I'm thankful because it's always good to do a fasting and feel like there was a purpose in it. There was a meaning behind the fasting. And the benefits and the results of what I didn't think were imaginable are actually imaginable because, people are noticing that something's different. I mean, some people are like, wow, Stephanie, you're so different. You're glowing. What's different? And I'm just like, you know what? God is faithful. I'm happy. I'm renewed. God has revealed to me joy and he's restored my faith. And I'm just full of praise. Like, honestly, I'm full of praise. I'm still in expectation of the miracle that I'm praying for. I'm still waiting for an answer. But as I'm waiting, as I'm praying, as I'm giving God praise, I'm like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and talk about somebody that has really been a role model for me during this time. I have really leaned into Hannah in the Bible, and I mentioned about her a few times in this year. A few podcasts I did mention just how I relate with her with regards to infertility, wanting something so bad, crying for it. I really relate to Hannah. The Bible doesn't say how long Hannah was barren and how long it took for her to finally get her prayer answered and God to give her a son. But the Bible does show the emotional journey that she goes through. And the Bible does show the faith that she had, the prayer that she did. And you can see her from before the miracle happened and after the miracle happened. And because I'm in this, whole lifestyle, because I think that's what it is now, right? Like you've changed something, you've dabbled into your faith, you've gotten stronger. Now you have to commit to making this a lifestyle, right? Now you have to commit to saying, you know what? I'm going to continue to pray. I'm going to continue to give. I'm going to continue to serve. I'm going to continue to read the Bible. I'm going to continue to praise God, to give him worship, and to move forward in my relationship with God because I want to be better, right? I want to be like Christ. That's the whole point of, having this relationship. You want to be like God. And because, that's just something that I want to make a lifestyle, and I want to make praise a lifestyle. And I go back to Hannah, and after she received the miracle, after she dedicated her son Samuel to the Lord, she has a whole chapter, or almost a whole chapter, basically where she gives a prayer of praise. And I said, you know what? It would be amazing to just take one episode and just go over Hannah's prayer of praise. It's found in 1 Samuel chapter 2. And I'm just going to go over verses 1 through 10. And I'm going to just give you, I guess, I'm going to read it and then I'm going to give you my idea of how I go about it, how I relate to this, how this is something that we should continue, what is fact. Like, I want to go over it. And I hope and pray that as you're listening to this episode, as you are listening to me read this and give my notes on it, that you go ahead and you consider reading the first chapter of, what she went through, how her husband reacted to her situation, how she was treated by his other wife, how her emotional state was, just so you can kind of get a backstory of what's going on with Hannah and really see the true transformation, because I really do feel it was a transformation. And this goes for anything, right? Regardless of whatever situation you're going through, if you're praying for something you have a deep desire for, it's aligned with a promise that God gave you. And it's something that you know that God is going to give you, but you don't know the time for it, you can really get a notion of what this transformation is, because you see yourself prior to God giving you the miracle. You see yourself going through the journey. And then for Hannah, after she received her son, now she's at the point where she sees her life in a whole different way because God gave her the miracle. So with me, I see myself, right, going through these last 6 years with my husband, just trying to conceive a child, trying to hold on to the promise that was given to us, and see how my journey is so far. And I thank God now, because sometime soon in the future, I'm going to look back at this episode for the remix 144, and I'm going to be able to say, you know what? On that day that I recorded episode 144 for the Remix Movement podcast, I had no idea that my miracle is going to be on this day in the future. And I can honestly say that through this transformation, like, I am blessed through the beginning, I'm blessed through the middle, and I am blessed at the end. And I continue to say this, you know, like, it's not over when you get the miracle. It's never over when you get your promise. Never. Because what happens is you have what you were asked for, and God says, okay, now that I've given you it, I want you to progress with what I've given you. I want you to cultivate it. I want you to teach it. I want you to be better. I want you to create memories. Whatever it is that you're looking for, whether it be a job, whether it be a son or daughter, whether it be a new career path or a new school or new marriage, a new house, whatever it is that you are asking God for, that maybe you too have, you've done fasting and you've done prayer, like, it's not going to be the end when you receive that. And it's definitely not going to be the end if you don't receive that. You know, if God doesn't give that to you, it's because something better is coming. It's because he has a different path for you. And even though it might feel like you're stuck, you're not stuck. You are blessed in the middle. So this is basically what's going on with Hannah in this verse. So like I said, I'm going to be reading 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 2 Samuel. No, reverse that. I don't know what's going on. Okay. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 1 through 10. All right. All right. So it says, then Hannah prayed, "My heart rejoices in the Lord!" Exclamation mark. I love how she starts this prayer. She starts it off by giving God glory. Yo, my heart rejoices in the Lord. And she continues by saying, the Lord has made me strong, and now I have an answer for my enemies. I rejoice because you rescued me. And this is for, again, anybody who is going through whatever you're going through that may seem like you are weak. The Lord has made you strong. The Lord is giving you new faith. The Lord is restoring you. The Lord is giving you a new heart. The Lord is going to help you. He's molding your heart. He's changing your mind. All right. So you too have to be rejoicing in the Lord. And you too have to understand that the Lord is making you strong. And you have an answer for your enemies. So you continue to rejoice because the Lord has rescued you. Verse 2. No one is holy like the Lord! Exclamation mark. Again, whenever you see an exclamation mark, it means like this is something with profound meaning. This is something that touched her heart. This is something that she has conviction on. So no one is holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. And when you see the text, it says rock, capital R. So that means that rock is synonym for God. Rock, God is our rock, okay? Verse 2, stop acting so proud and haughty. Don't speak with such arrogance, for the Lord is a God who knows what you have done. He will judge your actions. Now, for that, I'm reading from the New Living Translations. I want to see what this says in the Message, because the Message sometimes simplifies things. It says, okay, don't dare talk pretentiously, not a word of boasting ever. For God knows what's going on. He will take the measure of everything that happens. So basically what he's saying is don't boast on what you've done. Don't think that you did it by yourself. Don't be the first person to say, I did this. Always give God glory. So like part of what I'm going through, right, is not just going to the doctors, following the fertility treatment plan, but I have to be responsible for the decisions I make with regards to my health, taking supplements, drinking water, making sure I have a healthy diet. But I know that when God gives me my son or daughter, I can't say I did this. Oh, if it wasn't for me going to the gym, if it wasn't for me doing this, the first thing that should come out of my mouth is giving God glory, because I can work as hard as I want on my physical, but if God isn't working on my heart, then there's no way that the blessing he's given me is going to produce a fruit for the future. Okay, let me say that again, okay? You can work as hard as you can physically. You can put in as much overtime at your job. You can put in as much money in the bank. But if God isn't working on your heart so that he can give you the blessing that you are asking him for, then there's no way that you're going to be able to produce a fruit that will come forth in the blessing he gives you. See, God is going to give you what you ask for if it's according to his will, not your will. But if you put the work in and he goes ahead and supplies your need and gives you your miracle, that doesn't mean the work stops. That doesn't mean you have to boast on yourself. You got to keep giving God glory. You got to keep producing. You got to keep showing. You got to keep transforming. And you got to keep working on the heart that God has given you. That's the revelation for that verse. Wow. All right. So going back to 1 Samuel chapter 2, let me go ahead. I was in the New Living Translation. And did I put that in right? New Living Translation. And I'm going to go ahead and go hit verse 4. The bow of the mighty is now broken, and those who stumble are now strong. Kind of refers to in the Bible where it says, for when I was weak, he was strong. That's where it comes from, okay? Those who were well fed are now starving, and those who were starving are now full. Almost like the first will be the last, and the last will be the first. A lot of times, this is the way we think, like, I know you think this is the way it's supposed to be, but it's going to be the opposite later. I know you think you know what's right for you, but God knows what's best for you. It's kind of like almost that, right? And then it says, the childless woman now has 7 children, and the woman with many children wastes away. And I think that refers a little bit to her situation. Like I said, she had her husband had a second wife. And she had 10 children. But I guess she had 7, and her first one was Samuel, and she's talking about herself. And she's talking about like, hey, yes, I was barren before, but now I'm not barren. But my attitude is better because I have God and I recognize his power. And here you have the other wife who's had 10 kids. And how did she treat Hannah? She treated her with disrespect, with disgust. She didn't have God in her to show her an example of who God is. She literally treated her like a bully. And she's like, you know what? Like, you can have 1 million kids if you want, but now I know that I once didn't have children and now I have children and I still have a better attitude than you. That's what I get from that. Verse 6, the Lord gives both death and life. He brings some down to the grave, but raises others up. The Lord makes some poor and others rich. He brings some down and lifts others up. He lifts the poor from the dust and the needy from the garbage dump. He sets them among princes, placing them in seats of honor. For all the earth is the Lord's, and he has set the world in order. He will protect his faithful ones, but the wicked will disappear in darkness. No one will succeed by strength alone. Those who fight against the Lord will be shattered. He thunders against them from heaven. The Lord judges throughout the earth. He gives power to his king. He increases the strength of his anointed one. So what do I get from these last few verses? She's basically saying, you know what? God has the power of life and death. God knows everyone's plans. He knows everyone's plans before he even tells you what his plans are, okay? He's our creator. He's the one who sets the different principalities. He's the one who sets up who's rich, who's poor, who's making X amount of income every year, who's getting their taxes, who owes the government for taxes. God has everything in order, okay? And he knows exactly what he's doing. So what we need to do is we need to understand that, again, it's not our will, but God's will. And this is something that Hannah probably struggled with, because waiting for so many years on a promise, she's not the only one who waited. I mean, we know Abraham waited for a son. We know, Moses waited a long time to go ahead and lead the people out of Israel. Okay. A lot of people waited in the Bible for their promises. But you know what? While we're waiting, we need to continue to give God glory. We need to continue to recognize that God has the power to restore anything. God has the power to renew anything. God has the power to remove people from their high places, and he has the power to remove people from the low places into the high places. God has a plan. His plan is divine, and his plan is always best. And even though it's a struggle on a day-to-day, for us to find out, well, when is he going to give it to me? When is he going to tell me I got it? When am I going to get what I asked for? He will protect his faithful ones. That's what it says in verse 9. He will protect his faithful ones. He's always going to have your back if you continue in a relationship with him. He's always going to reveal something new if you pursue him. Like, if you continue as a new believer or a believer who's been in the faith for a long time, if you continue to hold on to God's hand, if you continue to have faith in him, he's going to be there for you. He's never going to leave you. He's always going to be able to show you new things. Like, he protects his faithful ones. He has your back, okay? And then the last verse really is I think, the strongest one, right? It closes the prayer, right, by saying, those who fight against the Lord will be shattered, his thunder against them from heaven. He thunders against them from heaven. The Lord judges throughout the earth. He gives power to his king. He increases the strength of his anointed one. Okay? And I want to go ahead and read that in the Message because I just want to see what the difference is. Let's see. This is why you guys should totally get the Bible app. You can always change the translations just for the new people out there. God will set things right all over the world, all over the earth. He'll give strength to his king. He'll set his anointed one on top of the world. All right. So what do I want to give from you guys from Hannah's prayer of praise? All right. And I hope you got the little revelations in there. I know it was very straightforward and a little longer than our usual episodes. But again, like, it goes for everybody. Anybody out there, like, we're not perfect. We live in an imperfect world. But we are striving for perfection, and God is the one who perfects us. And how do we get this perfect love? We seek God. How do we become more patient? We seek God. How do we become better mothers and fathers and sons and daughters? We seek God. And it's not just seeking God and checking the boxes. Oh, I'm a believer. I did this. Check, check, check. No, it is literally being hungry for him. It's being expecting a miracle every day. It's doing an act of kindness every day. It's literally being like super consumed by this amazing God that we have. And sometimes life gets in the way of us really understanding that the desperation out of Hannah's prayer prior to this prayer of praise is the same realness as this prayer of praise. If you read the first chapter of 1 Samuel, she's literally desperate. She's crying. She's screaming. She's yelling. I want this, Lord. I'm praying for this. And the Bible says years passed and she made it through. So whatever you're going through, you're going to make it through. You got to keep holding on. You got to keep praying. You got to keep having faith. And maybe you too, after you receive your miracle, you'll have your own personal prayer of praise. And that prayer of praise, you're going to be able to sing it to everybody. I mean, not literally sing it, but actually like let everybody know. I'm telling you, when God gives me my child, when I find out I'm pregnant, you guys will know. Like, I am ready to raise the roof to give God all the glory and praise. I am ready to make the videos, send it to my family members. Like, I am ready to say, God did this, not the doctors, not me alone. God did this. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have this. And I will literally give my prayer of praise every single day of that child, while that child is in my womb, while that child is out of the womb, like while I'm reading my baby Bible stories. Like, that baby is going to know who God is from the moment I get a positive sign. and that it just like, it's because of who God is. Like, God, like, he knows. If it wasn't for him, where would we be? I'm going to end the episode like that, right? Because I really need you guys to understand this. If it wasn't for God's saving grace, if it wasn't for the sacrifice that Jesus did on the cross, if it wasn't for God himself, where would you be? Think about that. Read the story of Hannah. And I really pray that you get something from this and God continues to speak to you. Thank you for tuning in. And I will see you guys in 2 days for the Friday Prayer Wave. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Remix Movement for more updates. Be sure to check out our videos on YouTube and subscribe. Feel free to send us a DM with your feedback, questions, and any topics that you would like to hear in any of our future episodes. Thank you and God bless.